Alright, how's it going, guys? And in today's video, I'm going to show you how you can increase your strength on your squat and find the perfect technique that works for you. And if you guys don't know me and you're new to this channel, I'm an international level powerlifter for Team Great Britain, and I've recently competed at IPF World Championships where I squatted 300 kilos in the 120 kilo weight class at 18 to get the gold medal in squat. In the future, I'm going to try and make more informative content on this YouTube channel alongside training for my European Championships coming up. So I'm just going to try and have a mix of both of those. I hope you guys enjoy this video and you get something out of this to help with your squat. So the first thing I'm going to be going over is the equipment that you use on the squat. I'll be putting all the pictures up here on the screen so you know what they are and you know what I'm talking about. So the first thing, the most important thing arguably is going to be the belt. So you can have any kind of belt, a 10 millimeter, a 13 millimeter, any sort of belt. I just wouldn't recommend one of the thin ones that you see usually in commercial gyms, and I'd recommend you get a lever belt, especially for squats, as it will help your brace so much, and a brace is extremely important in your squat. Next will be the knee sleeves. Any sort of knee sleeve is fine. I'd recommend a 7 millimeter one, either normal knee sleeves or you can get a sort of stiff knee sleeve like an Inza or an A7, either is fine. Next is your wrist wraps. Any kind of wrist wrap is fine. You don't have to wear wrist wraps, but people like wearing them because they feel like it supports their wrist more and they have less pain on their wrist when they squat. But end of the day, that's just personal preference. And then the last one is shoes. People either choose to squat in flats, which are a flat-soled shoe, like a Converse, and then someone else may prefer to have a heeled shoe, so like an Olympic weightlifting shoe, which most people use to help them hit depth if they struggle with it. So on to the most important parts of squatting. The first one is going to be your brace. So in bracing, it increases your inter-abdominal pressure, so you're going to have more core stability and you're going to be able to push more power. So to brace, you're going to want to use a belt. You can do it without a belt, but I would recommend to have a belt to do it. So you're going to want to breathe into your stomach, pushing your stomach out and the sides of your stomach into the belt as hard as you can, and holding that breath in on all the way down and all the way up of the lift. And then the next important part of squatting is going to be your foot pressure. So you want most of your foot pressure to be coming from your midfoot, but you also want the 3 points of contact to be your big toe, your midfoot, and your heel. Because if you have too much pressure on your toes, the bar path is going to go forward over your toes and your heels are going to rise. If you have too much pressure in your heels, the bar path is going to go over your heel and your toes are going to rise. And then the last important part is your bar path. You want the bar path over the midfoot where you're pushing all the power from. You don't want it over your toes or over your heels, as you'll just be losing position and losing kilos on your squat. And the next part I want to go for is command in the squat. If you have an upcoming competition or you just want to practice the squats in the gym. So the first command is going to be the start command. This is when you have your knees and your hips locked out at the squat and the head ref says start, and then you can start the descent. You have no other commands until you lock out the lift. So you lock out your knees and your hips, and then you get the rack command where you can rack the bar and then the lift is finished. So the next part of the squat is going to be your hand placement. So usually for hand placement, a bigger lifter would prefer a wider grip, and then smaller lifters can have a smaller grip, just because of the differences of ROM, as smaller lifters may have more range of motion in their shoulder, but then bigger lifters may have less range of motion. But then again, it's just personal preference. So just play around with it, see how much range of motion your shoulders can handle. And even if your shoulders allow an extremely close grip, you don't have to use that if you don't like it, and just choose which one feels best for you. So the next part is bar position. I would always recommend to everyone, especially my clients, to use a low bar, as there isn't many situations where someone is going to be stronger in a high bar. Only in extremely rare cases where they have extremely short femurs and they can squat really upright. But for the general population, I would always do low bar. You can have a sort of French low bar if you like that style of squatting, but then again, that's the same as a high bar squat. Only a certain amount of people would be able to do that and would be stronger in that position. So I'll just take a normal low bar position, and that should be perfectly fine for your squat. And then as for the unrack, you're going to want to get your feet into a nice position where you feel strong when you're unracking the bar. You're going to want to take a big brace into your stomach to just stabilize yourself and make sure the unrack is strong and steady. And then once you've done that, you unrack the bar. And then for the walkout, I'd recommend anything between 3 and 4 steps, no less and no more usually, because you don't want to step out too far because it's going to put you off, and you just want to make sure you get the perfect foot positioning. So for your stance, this mostly depends on your ankle mobility. So people with worse ankle mobility will usually have a wider stance, as it will help them hit depth a bit more. And then people with greater ankle mobility can have a closer stance. And I'd recommend most people to turn their toes out, as that will help them to hit depth. But just play around with your stance. Either try a closer one, a wider one, whichever one you can hit depth comfortably and you feel stronger in, then stick to that stance. But most people would be good with a shoulder width stance, or maybe just a little bit wider. And then with the descent, you want to have a tempo that isn't too slow, that you're not fatiguing yourself, but then you don't want it to be too fast that you're dive bombing and losing all positioning. So I'd say a middle range of being relatively fast but controlled. And then you'll want to carry on the descent until you hit depth. If you struggle with depth and you don't know where depth is, I would use a box squat to help with that. So I'd put the box exactly where your depth is, use a camera on the side to make sure it's perfect, and then squat down on that. Do that for a couple reps, a couple sets, get used to where your depth is, and that should help out with hitting depth with a normal squat in the future. And after you hit depth, you're going to want to push up with your hips and your chest rising at the same time, and then you've done your squat. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please leave any recommendations of videos you want to see in the future. And if you're looking to get one-on-one online coaching, please click the link in the bio and I'll get back to you as soon as possible and we can get to work. Please like and comment and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.